Welcome to Breakthrough Burnout, the bilingual podcast that helps you understand burnout better and gives you solutions to heal and live again. My name is Florence Parrow, and I am a sophrology practitioner, coach, author, and burnout expert. In this podcast, on my own or in conversation with other specialists, in French or in English, I'll help you understand the full picture of burnout to better avoid it or recover from it. Breakthrough Burnout, the podcast that helps you understand and heal. Today, I am very happy to welcome to this episode Sarah Davison, natural menopause expert and homeopath. Sarah, welcome.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Florence, for inviting me.
Shall I let you tell everyone in a few words who you are, what you do?
Sure. So as you said, I kind of go by the title of natural menopause expert or natural menopause specialist. And the main tool that I use to help people through that is homeopathy, because I'm a trained homeopath, and I help women over 40, so 40 and beyond, navigate their menopause without HRT or bioidentical hormones. And I do that in the form of group programs and one-to-one work. And that work incorporates not just homeopathy, but also nutrition and sophrology that I have from Florence and a number of other modalities. It's a very holistic approach, I'd have to say.
Absolutely. That's what I love about it. So today I invited you because I really wanted to talk about the greater risk of burnout for women who are 40 plus. So would you like to explain to us why is that? Why is there a greater risk?
Why is that? Absolutely. And I think this is something that, your doctor won't necessarily tell you. And it's so important because for me, menopause symptoms can look like burnout. Or burnout, yes, that they can masquerade. And the thing is that we need our sex hormones, our estrogen and progesterone, for much more than making babies. So when our ovaries start to wind down, the organs that produce these hormones, when they start to wind down, like around the end of the 30s, like 38, 40, something like that, it's a long wind down across a decade or more. And what happens when they wind down is that the body still needs those hormones for all the other functions besides making babies. And so it's not just, I'm not going to have babies any longer, so I don't need those hormones. They are absolutely crucial. So then what is going to produce those hormones when the ovaries are wound down? It's the adrenal glands. So the adrenal glands are the little glands that sit like little hats on top of our kidneys, and they do have many amazing functions. But one of the big ones is produce stress hormones, or like our fight or flight hormones. And it's these glands that are ones that get really tired when we burn out. Now, therefore, the reason that we are more prone to burning out after 40 as women is because these glands have an extra job to do. They have to work extra hard now, not just doing everything that they used to do, but also picking up the slack on the production of the sex hormones. And if we enter our 40s on what I call on the back foot adrenally, i.e. very stressed or very tired, maybe, and of course, this is midlife for women. So midlife women, we're known as a sandwich generation. And what that means is many women have kids still at home, holding down a job, looking after ill or dying parents, and it's exhausting in itself. So they go in with their adrenals already tired. And then when those adrenals are expected to produce the sex hormones as well, they can't. And that leads to loads of symptoms that we call menopausal. But actually, and my own story, I discovered this through my own story, if that's relevant to talk about, in that I had a baby very late at 41 who didn't sleep through for 2 years and was quite a handful. And I was also holding down a corporate consulting job. And the combination of the two just completely it brought my perimenopause on with a bang, and I didn't know that that's what it was because I still had a regular period, and I didn't have any hot flushes. But I thought that I was burning out, and I was burning out. But the trigger was the ovary wind down, which I didn't know about.
Of course. And it's
So
true, so many women don't know about that. It's really essential. When you know that, at least you can have some idea what's happening to you. I think that's very important. Is there something on top of the adrenals that happen there?
Yes. So then the other thing that can happen is when your sex hormones drop, that puts pressure on the thyroid, and the thyroid is another crucial gland. It's all about our metabolism and how we use energy, and so it can push women often into low thyroid or underactive or what's called hypothyroid condition, which often isn't recognized because within the mainstream medicine, their parameters are so broad that what a reading on thyroid hormones that I would call hypothyroid, they wouldn't call hypothyroid in the mainstream. So there are lots of women limping around, even those that are on HRT, with undiagnosed hypothyroid conditions that make you feel exhausted. And then when you get a very low thyroid, that then makes the adrenals work harder. So double whammy for the adrenals.
Gosh, double, triple. I mean, these poor adrenals, they're very small, aren't they? And you think all the work they have to do.
I know. And the thing is that, us women are at a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to the hormones that are produced by our adrenals, because compared to men, we only have the adrenals, whereas men have the adrenals and they have their testes. They have that. So they have that huge source of, energy and stress hormones that, they don't have to worry about their adrenals burning out the same way we do. I mean, it's not that they don't do burnout. Of course they do.
But it's a higher risk for women, especially from
40.
age 40.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, it is extremely dangerous. And in this podcast, we talk a lot about, recognizing burnout, knowing how to deal with it, how to prevent it, of course. So in this particular instance, is there, are there some ideas, some symptoms, some signs we could be looking for that could tell us, oh, careful, we are in that danger zone. This is what's happening to us.
Yes. So that could point to a menopausal burnout rather than a non-burnout. Yeah. So, well, in perimenopause, it's very difficult to spot because a lot of women, as we've said, don't know they're in perimenopause, because perimenopause can start, for most women, starts in their 40s. 90% of women go through perimenopause in their 40s. And for many years, while your ovaries are winding down, you may have regular periods like I did and no hot flushes. And you may not know about the 48 or more other symptoms that go with perimenopause, one of them being exhaustion, weakness, and they masquerade as many other things. So it may be that you feel super anxious and you can't tolerate the stress the way you used to. That could be a sign. It may be that you're dealing with insomnia, which, I'm sure you talk about in your burnout. So it's like wired and tired, exhausted, can't get to sleep, or getting to sleep, waking at 2 a.m. Sometimes some people waking at 2 a.m. can't get back to sleep, or they wake at 2 a.m. with palpitations or anxiety. What else? It could masquerade as what the doctors call fibromyalgia, which I think is one of those catch-all, a bit like irritable bowel syndrome. There's something wrong, but we don't really know what it is, so we'll give it this general title. But adrenal fatigue and burnout can be underneath fibromyalgic style symptoms. So joint pain, muscle soreness, neck and shoulder and backache or mid backache is a sign maybe that something's going on with the adrenals. Headaches, stabbing behind the eyes. I mean, I'm just trying to remember all the symptoms.
There's so many, aren't there? I mean, the
Oh.
fact to know that there are about 50
Yeah.
possible symptoms
Yeah,
is just
yeah.
enormous.
And these are all specifically menopausal symptoms that have an adrenal weakness underneath, that's what's causing them. Because my whole view on menopause is that, we'll put it this way, 20% of women don't get menopause symptoms at all. So that's what's possible for all of us. So my hypothesis is that the ones that do get symptoms, it's because the other organs in the endocrine system have not been able to adjust and recalibrate the system. So, for instance, like we just said, the adrenals are already tired, so they can't do what they're supposed to do, or there's a weakness in the thyroid already, but that really shows up, when the hormones drop. I was leading on saying something else, but I distracted myself. But anyway, that's so. Oh, that's right. Symptoms that come up, that may be telltale of the fact that this is hormonal, menopausal, not just burnout. So perimenopause has this, thing that you might miss it because you don't have hot flushes or irregular missing periods. But it's not just in perimenopause. So after menopause, as in, there's a confusion in the industry generally about the terms, but let's just say after you've had a year without a period, then you're considered to be post-menopausal. But the word post does not mean that the symptoms are over.
Yes.
So yes, I mean, any burnout symptoms, as you know them, fatigue, exhaustion, joint pain, any of the things I have mentioned can happen after your period have stopped as well, because we are living with that lower level of sex hormones for the rest of our lives. Now, our bodies do recalibrate, but again, as I said, if the other organs in the endocrine system, the liver, the thyroid, the adrenals, and the gut, aren't in great shape and can't recalibrate as required to give you balance and no symptoms, then you're going to get symptoms.
Yes, and it's harder to see, to notice what is happening. You're right. I mean, things like hot flushes, we know hot flushes we associate with menopause, but we don't necessarily think things like, what you mentioned at first, like sudden stress. There's no reason why we should be stressed. We can think of nothing that is stressful, and we feel suddenly extremely stressed, even maybe super anxious.
Yes.
And I think that's a really interesting sign, because if this is happening and you can't think of something specific that could provoke that, then there is a good chance that this could be dysfunction of your adrenals one way or the other, and linked to menopause in some way.
Or even more subtle is if, I forgot what I was going to say now.
Typical brain fog. That's also a good one.
But that's how it works generally.
It's really about, I think, really noticing, listening to ourselves, noticing how we are feeling truly, not trying to sort of hide it under the carpet and think, oh, that's okay. I'm dealing with it. I'm fine. As I hear very often from my clients, oh, I'm fine. No, I'm dealing with it. Well, we're not really dealing. We're just sort of hiding it, pretending we're not noticing. But if we listen more carefully, I think it will tell us, there's something happening not quite as usual there, and it might be worth looking into it. I think that's
and the thing that I couldn't remember, which has come back to me now, is, you gave a very extreme example, which is I'm feeling anxious for absolutely no reason. The more subtle thing is that you have reduced tolerance of stress.
Exactly.
So things that used to not stress you out at all. This is what happened to me in my mid-40s. I was an experienced consultant. I'd been the one that had been teaching everybody else how to do the training and the whatever. And suddenly things that I used to do with my eyes shut became overwhelming for me. And I think my bosses wondered what on earth was going on with me, because I was turning down jobs and I was getting freaked out about things. I was one of the senior consultants. So, and I run a lot of webinars, and I often ask for feedback and polls and things. And that is very, very common, a reduced tolerance of stress. So if you're noticing that and it's going on for more than just, a month or so, then that may be to do with perimenopause. And again, if you're anything like I was in my 40s, I had no ideas that is when menopause starts.
Exactly.
While you've still got the period, and there's no obvious sign of that going on.
Absolutely. You said something really interesting there. In the workplace, I think this can be a really big difficulty for women in that time of their lives. I don't know if you have, anything you want to.
Yes, well, it's very tricky because, there's a lot of talk about getting gender balance on the board, but a lot of women are either going and remember, by this age, a lot of women have become to quite senior positions.
Absolutely.
Which means that they hold a lot of wisdom and experience for the organization, and they're close to really coming into their power in the kind of personal power sense rather than corporate power, but corporate power as well for some. And we see a lot of statistic, there have been studies done, a lot of women leaving, lots of women not taking up the opportunity for promotion because they just know they could not cope. A lot of women going part-time, a lot of women taking sick leave. And I mean, I see a lot of these women. And there's a lot of discussion about it. I'm on LinkedIn quite a lot, and there's a lot of discussion about it. And there's thought, well, we should do this, and people need to know more about that. And yes, I agree, they do. But as was pointed out to me by a research psychologist in this area called Dr. Tatiana Rosen, who works at Henley Business College, the workplace is set up for male biology, basically. And what does that mean? It means that they have a good supply of adrenaline, cortisol, and testosterone in order to work those really long hours, burn the candle at both ends, deal with a lot of stress, push through. After 40, many women just cannot do that. They cannot do it. And as happened with me, it pushes them into burnout.
Absolutely.
So the workplace needs to change. But, I think that will be like, as they say, changing a tanker. Well, it takes 11 miles for a tanker at sea to change direction.
That's a lot of miles. Yes, I think it has to happen, but it most certainly will happen step by step. But
there has to be an awareness around it, because there's to be an awareness of the effect it's having on women and how they're losing senior women, so they're not getting their gender balance. But also, they have to understand that this is how the workplace is, and it's the unconscious expectations of the people of the bosses.
Absolutely.
And the managers that filters down to the managers and the way they manage their team and their expectations and the whole culture.
Absolutely. But I think already, if as women we start bringing in those ideas of working differently, that could definitely bring about some change, and I think it's really overdue. So what advice would you give to women who are not certain, are they at risk, are not certain what is happening to them? Any recommendation you may have?
Or in terms of they're not sure whether this is hormonal.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I could say go to your doctor and get a test, but the trouble with hormone tests that you get through mainstream medicine is that, your hormones go up and down all the time anyway, and they go up and down even more in perimenopause. So, I know women who've had tests and been told, no, your hormones are fine, go away. So I think, I have a free perimenopause assessment I offer people. So if they follow me, then they can tick off and see how many of those symptoms they have. Or I can send them my sheet with a list of, I think I've got about 49 on there. So if that's where they're trying to work out, is this what's going on with me? Yeah, I think, or they can book a free curiosity call with me. I mean, they don't have to spend any money, but if they want to know what's going on, those are kind of 3 ways that I could help. How they might get help elsewhere, I'm not sure. I mean, there are places on the internet which will list, more than 10 symptoms. Some say there are 32, but latest count, I think there are 50 or more, that I keep coming across new ones, and it's because so many organs are involved.
Of course, it disrupts the whole body, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's what I would suggest in terms of them working out whether that is what's going on for them.
That's a great idea. And I think it's all very important to, as we were saying earlier, get into the habit of listening in to yourself, listening how you are truly feeling. That's really some things that can, help someone see better what's going on.
And actually, another thing that is a bit of a telltale sign, which I didn't mention earlier, this isn't the case for everyone in burnout, but very commonly, if your adrenals are struggling, that through a kind of chain reaction effect can end up meaning you have very, very heavy or long periods.
That can be a sign as well.
That can be connected, not always, but it's to do with what we call estrogen dominance and the what we call the cortisol steal. Yeah.
Absolutely. So another sign to look for, ladies. So Sarah, I like to ask all my guests, what helps you find serenity in your life?
Yes, well, I need to, because, my history is being very driven, and I've been on the edge of burnout 3 times myself since I entered perimenopause. So I think the thing that's working for me now is, it's easier said than done, practicing detachment. It's about letting go and being less driven. And in order to do that, I realized I had to trust that it's going to be okay. Now, for me, where that trust goes is that I trust that a higher power is going to help me work it out. I don't put everything in the lap of the higher power, but I do have come to the realization that it's not just all about me and what I do, that there's a higher power involved. But that might not fit for everybody's belief system. So if that doesn't fit for your belief system, I would say challenge yourself and say, what would happen if I don't do this on time? What would happen if I don't make that call or say yes to that person? And I think it's about having better boundaries,
Of course,
making space in your diary, delegating to other people. Why do you have to do all the cooking if I'm just giving a simple example? I have a 19-year-old son in the house, and he has to cook 2 of the evening meals a week. So my husband does 2, I do 2. So it's like, can you delegate more? Because I think as women, very often we're used to being everything to everybody and doing it all. And estrogen makes us like that. It's not just the socialization. Estrogen apparently makes us compliant, and it makes us nurturing, so that we're driven to run after everybody, and just as well, because if we didn't have those qualities thanks to estrogen, I don't know what would happen to some toddlers or infants, when they've been screaming for 12 hours and you can't stand it any longer.
But something, yes, that can definitely change then at menopause.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you. Thank you for this advice. And thank you, Sarah, for sharing your wisdom with us. It's been very enlightening.
Been a pleasure.
So if people want to find out about you, of course, we'll put everything in the show notes, but is there a particular...
Best to find me on social media. So you can find me on LinkedIn as Natural Menopause Expert. I also have a Natural Menopause Facebook group called Natural Menopause Group. And then, LinkedIn, I do a lot on there. So Facebook, and then Instagram, at the Natural Menopause Expert.
Fantastic. Thank you. We'll put all those in the show notes for everyone listening who wants to know more about what you do. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you for having me, Florence.
So if you want to know more about burnout, solutions to recover, and my own work on the subject, you will find everything on my website and all the details in the show notes. I will see you soon for a new episode of Breakthrough Burnout, the podcast that helps you understand and heal.